Good morning, guys. Welcome to week 3 of our session, all right, of our class, so our training. So today we'll be treating how to create dashboards, all right, Power Pivots, and then we talk more extensively on Power Queries. If time permits, we do a bit of introduction to Power BI, all right. So let's get started. So this is the data set we'll be using for today. All right. The data set has an order date, is a food sales, like the name portrays, food sales data. All right. It has the region, the city where the food was sold, the category of the food, the product. All right, the quantity and the price. All right. So of course we will need to get the total sales, right? So this is the price and this is the quantity sold on this day in the East region in Boston under the category bar. So we need to find total sales. So we do all this in Power Query and do some other cleanings. All right, let's proceed. So the first thing, as I said, is to highlight your table. So having highlighted your table, all right, go to data, all right, go to from table range, because we are taking it from table range. All right. So we have this as a data set. So we can see it's a whole lot cleaned, right? Just a bit of stuff to add. All right. Let's say we want to make this East, the region, the city, the category, and the product. Let's say we want to make it capital, right? We click on those guys, click on Control, done, and then press the columns as I'm doing. Right click and you press transform, right? So you want to transform to uppercase. You can as well come here to transform here and see format, and then you click on uppercase. All right. You check the data type. Are they in the right data type? This is in dates, right? This is correct. This is correct. This is also correct. So they are in the right data type. Then the next thing is for us to, let's say for example, we want to find the total price now. So in that case, meaning we want to add a column. So we want to add column. So to tell you which kind of column, for in this case now, it's more like a custom column, because we want to perform a calculation. So we pick custom column. All right. So to tell us what's the name of our custom column, we want to make it total sales, right? Total sales. So let's drag the columns that we need. So we need the quantity. You click on quantity, click on insert, times the unit price. Click on unit price, click on insert, it brings that in. If there's any error, it will tell you there's an error, but there's no error here. Click OK, then create that, right? So let's say we want it in one decimal place. All right, you can come to rounding and say round round up, right? Yes, you get it. Well, let's not do a round up. So if I want to cancel this step now, all I need to do is just click on this and it cancels that. All right, let's say we just want to round. Let's not round up. Round to how many decimal places? Just to 1. Round it to 1 decimal places. So that's what I want us to do. So it has been rounded to 1 decimal place. All right, but it's creating another column for us. All right, so which you can just click on this and say total, or before that delete this, remove this because you don't need this, and then rename this again total sales, right? Hit enter. So this is in the right format now. So let's say we now want to give, for example, let's say want to give a discount on those that buy quantity greater than 100. So if someone bought on more than 100, we want to give him 50% discount on the total sales. So for example, if like this guy now, he bought 100 and above, so his total sale is 177, right? So we want to give 5% discount, so meaning he will pay how much? So if we give 5% discount, so he's going to pay 95% of the money. So because 5% discount means you are deducting 5%, so you want him to pay 95% of the money, so or 0.95 of total sales. So in this case now we can add a conditional column, that is, if the quantity is greater than or equal to 100, then multiply total sales by 0.95. So that means discounted total sale. So we come to add column, conditional column. All right, so our if statement is this. So if quantity is greater than or equal to, you can see that you can even choose greater than or equal to 100. Let's name our column discounted sales, right? So you have to choose the data type, because the data type you want to return is okay, let's just leave it this way first. So if the quantity is greater than or equal to 100, then the person should have 5% discount, which means the person will be paying 95% of the total sales. So 0.95, right, times, all right, select a column. So we'll select a column, total sales, so in this case we cannot multiply here, right? So what we'll first of all do is create that discounted sales. All right, then we now put a condition, right? So let's cancel that. So let's do a custom column. We can even write it here. Let's see if let's see, is there an if function there? Okay, so what we'll do is, so total sales, right? Total sales, insert that, times what? 0.95, because we are 0.95. So because we are giving a discount of 5%, so that gives us our discounted sales. Right? So click OK, and that gives you can see now. So so this guy now will be paying 55.48, but we are not giving discount to this guy because he didn't buy up to 100. So we'll now condition this now. So conditional column, right? If quantity is greater than or equal to 100, then select a column. So we are selecting a column. All right, discounted sales, right? So you can add more. So else if, so let's add more. Else if quantity is less than 100, then we can put value here now. So if it is less than 100, return 0, right? So let's call this sales quantity, total sales with higher quantity. All right, so let's just put something of this nature. hit OK. So you can see what we have here. So you can see now that when quantity sales with higher total sales with, so if you look at those ones that have value now, you can see that this one is greater than 100, so it's returning this discounted sales here. So where this one is also greater than 100, so discounted sales. This one is also here, so it's returning this discounted sales. But for those that do not pay, that do not buy up to 100, so it should return total sales for them. So we made a mistake. Instead of saying it should return 0, it should return total. It should return what? Total sales. So how do we go back to where we are? Just come to this small setting button here, right? So double click it. All right, it will bring back the conditional column. So you just change this now. We are not bringing in, so you just change it to select column, right? And then you select the column. So return total sales. So what you are saying is that if someone bought like 100 quantity, give him a discounted sales which you've calculated there, which is 0.95 times total sales. But if not, just return the total sales. The person will not have a discount. So it's only someone that bought 100 that will have a discount. So okay, and that corrects. You can see now that is corrected. So for those less than quantity less than 100, they will have this total sales as their total sales with discount sale, right? All right, so you can see for these ones, they won't their total sales will not be this, it will be this, because they've been discounted. Do you get it now? So one other advantage, these are some of the things we want to, all right, we want to treat, right? So if you look at this in Excel, if it were to be Excel now, because we are putting a condition here and this condition is dependent on this guy, if you delete this in Excel, this column in Excel, it will, this guy here will now throw error. But that's the advantage of Power Query. It won't throw error. So I can even delete this now. It won't affect this guy. So I don't need this any longer, right? I can delete this now. Remove, right? You can see it has not affected this guy at all. Then let me now make this counter sales, right? Because this is what, so you can see that every steps I'm taking is recording it, right? So this is total sales, this is discounted sales, right? So I can also, you've seen how we can do a conditional column, right? So we can do a lot of statistics. So this is in date format already, so I can say, okay, I don't want this. If you look at this date now, it's having a time extension 12:00. Probably I don't want that. All right, I can come to date and say select just date only. All right, so you can see date, it's giving me the date only here. So I can come here and then I can decide to move this guy to the beginning, move it to the beginning. All right, so it moves it here. Then that way I can so that way I can remove this and maybe rename this to other date, right? So you can see a lot of transformations that we are doing now. This is where Power BI comes in. All right, so these are data is good now, all right, but we can have a case where the data is more, is dirtier than this, but luckily this is very, very good a data. So with this now, that's more of what we do in Power Query. All right, so we will now load this now back to Excel. I get it now. So we load this now back to Excel. So we go to home. All right, close and load, or close and load to. So I don't want to load it to Excel. I want to load it to data model so that I can create pivots, right? So that will take us to Okay, so let me choose this now so that you see. So you can see it's saying table to a pivot table, pivot chart, only create a connection. So what I want to do is just create a connection and then add it to the data model. So that's what I want this to do. Click OK. So it's just going to create a connection and it has added it to data model. So this takes us to Power Pivot, right? So let's go to Home. Alright, so on your tab you might not be able to see Power Pivot here right now, but it's rightly here, because if it is not here, normally you should see it here, power, like you have power, you have Power Pivot. But let me click out, let's see if we will have it. Okay, let's see. So it's not showing. So but how you can confirm is when you come here, alright, you see this data model. So this data model is what confirms that Power Pivot is present in your Excel version. Alright, so what you can also do to confirm if it is there is come to File, come to Options, alright, come to Add-ins, alright, and then pick Power Pivot. So if it's not there before now, you can see you have Power Map, Power Pivot, Power Pivot. So let's click Power Pivot. What type of add-in is it? A comp add-in. So come here and click comp add-ins, then click on go. Right, when you click on go, click on this Power Pivot. This is all we want to, and click OK. So I think it's not been added before, so it's been added now. You can see you now have Power Pivot. So Power Pivot, you can see in the tab you have manage, you have measures, you have KPIs, add to that model, you detect, and settings. So Power Pivot is just like your Power BI, majorly like your Power BI. So what you'll be doing with Power Pivot is more or less like what you do with Power BI. Alright, so you create data model here, you create measures here. So measures, alright, measures. So we have what we call measures. There are three types of calculations. So let me go to new sheet. So there are three types of calculations you do in Power Pivot, right? So as I was saying, so there are three types of calculations in Power Pivot. So we talk about in Power Pivot calculations. So first is calculated table, another is calculated column, another will be measures, right? So these are the three types of calculations you do with Power Pivot. So you create a calculated table. This is calculated table is just a new table using formulas, right? Calculated column is new column using DAX. So let me say DAX. So it's clearer to us, right? Using DAX. So using DAX, and then so so measures are reusable formulas of functions. Reusable formulas, or how do I put it now? I don't want to use, let me just say functions, reusable functions, right? So, and we have two types of measures. We have implicit right? Implicit measures and explicit measures. We have implicit measures and explicit measures. So implicit measures are measures created by default. Alright, by default. Explicit are measures created using DAX. So let me show us an example now. For example, like we have this. If I turn this to a pivot table, alright, if I turn this to a pivot table, let me bring this here and expand, right? So you notice something. Let's say this unit price, for example. It calculates by default. Excel calculates all this by itself. So you are just picking it. It's just like, when you have some table, you see something like a summation sign. So it does that by itself. Something like this nature is what we call implicit measure, because Excel does that, or Power BI, anyone does it by default. Alright, that's what we call implicit. But explicit measure are the ones you create using DAX. What is DAX? So DAX is data analysis expression, right? Data analysis expression. So that's the meaning of DAX. So this is so powerful that it helps us to do a lot of calculation, which you will see in a short while, right? So this is very key. All right, so another thing you have to know is model. So when we say model, we'll still talk about this in Power BI, but model is just simply creating relationships between different tables using common keys, right? So when you say using common keys, what do we mean? So we mean, for example, what we did last week, that you have ID in a table. Let's say this is one table, table 1. Table 1 has ID and name. So these are the columns of table 1. Table 2 has ID and age, for example. So what links this table together? We can link these two tables together using ID. So when I create this relationship, when I want to create relationship, I will create the relationship based on this ID. That's what we mean by creating relationships. That's what we mean by model. So we are creating a model. So you notice that when you came to this place, it will say add to data model. So what we are saying is that add to a place where we can create relationship. Add this data, the data we edited in Power Query the other time, add it to where we can create relationship. All right, so immediately you come to Power Pivot. So, and you can see these are measures. All right, new measures to manage measures. You see how that works. So instantly, the other time when I loaded this table from Power Query, I said load to data model. So let me close it. So I've already loaded this data model. So if I want to see what is in my data model, I can come to manage. You can see if I come to manage, it will take me to my data model. So it will take you to Power Pivot. Wow. So here immediately I double clicked, I'm in Power Pivot. So this is Power Pivot. So Power Pivot, here you can create calculations, you create measures. So this is your table side. This is where you have your what's it called? These are your tables. You can see this is the table we imported from Power Query, sales data. You can see sales data. So you can see this one has discounted sales. You can see this is the column we created. You can see it now has all the transformation we did, the other dates now. All right, the transformation is now in capital letter and all that. So you can see this is the initial table that we were given. All right, so you can delete it, right? From here as well, you can also import data from anywhere, right? From SQL Server access point. All right, so from different services, you can import data from SQL and directly link it to Power Pivot and create calculations. So you can see this is calculation area. You can see when I clicked it out, it moved it area, it removed it. So this is calculation area. So when I want to create my measures, this is where I will create my measures. So and then this is our data view. So you can see, so data view is this side that we can see your data. All right, I can come to diagram view, right? So this diagram view is where I will create my, this is where I will create my relationships, right? So this is where you create relationships. All right, so I can take it back to data view so that I can see my view. So these are just auto sum, right? These are just these are what I call implicit measures now, because they are just to really give you quick insight. Sum, average, like that. But explicit, you need to write DAX code, right? So you can come to on that's all for the home tab. You can refresh, all right, and then you can connect your model with a pivot table directly. So which you will do to create our dashboard, right? You can insert functions, calculation options, you can see, create relationships. So we'll do that, all right, in a short while. So anytime, so let's proceed now. So we don't need this guy, right? So we can delete it. So you can say delete, or you can hide. So let's just delete it. We don't need it. Don't need that. So this is the one we worked on that we need. So first is I will show us how to do a calculated column. All right. So what we did in Power Query, that we multiplied this by this to get the total sales. All right, quantity by unit price to get total sales, and then we find the discount. We can also add columns, right? So if I want to add column, I'll just click on that, on the new column, right? I can also do like this, insert column. When I right click, it shows insert column or rename column, right? So let's say I want to insert a new column that now has, for example, let's just create something, although not necessary, but I just want to show us how this is possible, right? Okay, so let's say we just want to join East and Boston together, right? So in this case now, because we are creating a new column using DAX, we call it calculated column. Because we are creating a new column using DAX, we call it what? Calculated column. So immediately I click on this, I will come to this, my formula bar. This is the formula bar. All right. I think I'm not okay. Have I explained advanced? So in advanced, basically it's just, you can see show implicit measures. So summarize by default fit set and all that. So you don't really have much to do with that. So let me create a new column now that joins region and city, right? So I will name it region hyphen or underscore city, right? Then one thing about Power Pivots in Excel is, if you want to create a formula, instead of just using equal to in Power BI, right, you have to use semicolon equal to, right? Semicolon equal to, and then you create what you want to create. For example, we want to join region and city. I told us you can use concatenate, all right, which is also here. You can say concatenate, or you can use the ampersand as well. All right. So let's say we want to concatenate now. So we take region. You tell us okay. Now you notice something. Now the way Is it Power Pivot or Power BI? Anyone. The way it picks the name of the column is it preceded by the name of that table where that column is calling from. So let's for example now, the name of this table is sales what? Sales data. And we want to use a column called region. So if you want to select this region column, Power Pivot or Power BI, we take the name of the table first before the name of the region, the name of the column we are using. So you can see that you have the name of the table and then region. So you pick this, right? It should ask you, you are concatenating with it. Let's say you want an hyphen in between. You can see it's more or less like what you have in Excel. So and then we want to join it by city. So just type city and then this comes up. And then you do what? Close bracket. I think this is good. Hit enter. Okay, it's giving us error. I want to see why. So let's select this guy again. Why is it throwing error? City. Why is it giving error? Okay, you can see here that concatenate takes just two argument, 1 and 2, test 1 and test 2. But here we are providing 3. We are providing region, hyphen and sales. So in this case, this will not work. But if you notice, if you remove this ampersand, for example, city tab 1 2 3 4. Okay, 2 3. So if you use this now, you see that it will work, right? You can see that it's working, right? But to overcome this challenge, so as I've told us, all you need to do is what? Just use ampersand, right? So that will be ampersand sign, hyphen, ampersand, hyphen again, and then that joins all of them together. So this now, you can see that this now is working, right? So this is what we've just done now, is we've created a calculated column. All right. Now again, we'll create a calculated table. So we are going to, our calculated table, I told us calculated table is a new table, but we are using DAX. All right. So for our calculated table, we are going to create a date table. So this is a date, but it's always very good to create a date table. A date table is a table that has the date, the month, the year, quarter, week, everything, like a table like this one. So all right, so like a normal table like this. So it makes your work easier, and then you can now create relationship, so you can work with it. So more so, anytime you are using time intelligence DAX functions, it's very good to always have a date table, or you are using time intelligence DAX functions. All right, so let's proceed to do that. So come to design. All right, so you can see date table, right? So design date table. So we want to say new date table. So you can see now that, okay, so very great. So you can see this is doing this for us ab initio. So date table, new date table. So set as default. So it's creating a date table for us directly. All right. But when you get to Power BI, you see how we can create that. Of course, I will delete some column here so that you just see how this is done. But it has done year, month number. You can also check the formula that it's using. Year of the date, month number is the month of the date, the month is, you can see, format, date, So it has done that for us. Month and year, it has done that for format month and year. Day of the week, we don't need this, so you can what? Delete this column. All right, you don't need this as well. You can also delete this column. All right, so let's say we now want to see the week. All right, so let's say we want to see the week. So the same thing, just write week semicolon equals to week num, right? There is a function called week num. Pick the date of the, you can see that the name of our table is what? Calendar. So date of the calendar, right? Comma. So this is to tell you the format. It takes two arguments, the date and the format you want it. Do you want the week to begin on Sunday, or you want it to begin on Monday? So let's say you want it to begin on Monday. You pick 2 and you hit enter. So that gives you the week. You can see you now have the week, right? So basically, this is what we want. All right, so this is what we want, right? So we've created this is what we call a date table that gives us a range of every date. You can see that it's starting from January 2020, and if you check now, probably to December 2021. You can see December 2021. The reason is because in this our sales data, you can these are sales data, right? The date ranges between 2020 and 2021. So it will pick all the dates in those 2 years. So we have you can also create quarter. For example, let's create quarter. So quarter, all right, equals to just the quarter function. So you see that when I didn't put semicolon, it didn't give out suggestions. So equals to quarter. You say opening quarter, next quarter, end of quarter, start of quarter. So let's just pick start of quarter. It's on the start of quarter. So of the date. Okay. But in Power BI, okay, so it's not it's not giving us what I want. So there's probably is no longer in Excel, but in Power BI, there's a function called quarter, right? So it's not let's leave this one. Let's delete this. So I think we are good with this. All right, so now we can now create relationship as I've told us. First, we can also mark as table, mark as date table. So let's mark it as a date table. So it's been marked. Okay, so mark it. So it's been marked. All right, so we now come to home, right? Diagram view. You can see that these are the two tables we have. So this is like a diagram view now. Here you can now what? You can now create relationships, right? What is common to these two guys? It is the date, other date from here and the date from here. So you click on this and then drag it on top of other date. You can see, so you've just created relationship, right? So what you've just done now is what we call data modeling, right? So let's say you don't want to see some stuff here, you can hide them. Let's say, for example, I won't be needing this region city that we created, right? I can do what? Hide from client tools. But in Power BI, it will tell you hide from data model. So we don't need this region city, for example. Maybe we don't need any other thing. You don't need, you just remove it from here. So we've created our relationship. We can now go on to our what? Data view. So now in the next video, we'll talk about how to create DAX functions. So we've talked about calculated columns. We're able to create this calculated column in calendar, and it says data we're able to create this calculated column as well. You can see that now it is fainted, right? So you can see that it is fainted because we've hidden it in the diagram view. We've hidden it from the what? Data model. That's why it's fainted, right? So we've created a calculated column, region, city, and then we've created a calculated table as well, which is this dates table, right? So now we'll look at how we can create what? Measures, right? Explicit measures, which are the calculations we need for our calculation. You remember that when you are doing pivot table, if you do a calculation, if you want to do it again, you have to do it again. Let's say you want to do a sum, you have to do it again. But with pivot, but with DAX measures, you can reuse your calculations. So we'll see that in the next video. We'll create our measures and then build a small dashboard using Excel. Is that fine? So see you in the next video. Bye.